Hey everyone, welcome to the new tutorial, and today's tutorial is going to be dedicated to the latest feature that's been added into MagicQ, and it's a timeline or timeline editor. So if you look at if you downloaded the latest beta version, so 1872, it might not be latest at the time you download, but this is the version where we started supporting it. You will be able to actually see that we've added now a new option. If you press timeline button, you will be able to see the new window. So this is, you can see the waveform of your sound file, and you can see some Q stacks and the Q audios, etc., etc. So I'll quickly show you how to start working with them. So first of all, we will need an audio file. So we have we support currently two formats, which is MP3 and WAV. So you can actually I have the same song in the two formats, and they're very same, and I will show you how easily they work. So the links to those files I will leave on the website. They will be linked to the YouTube page where you can actually download those songs as well. It's a no royalty songs, and you can use them in your videos and in your work as well. So what I do have is I have my basic Q stack. So I have a Q stack with the 7 steps. And I have a video about how to record the time-coded show. So you can record the very same time-coded show. You also can have your tracks. So in my view timecode, I actually have 2 tracks, track 1 and track 2. So what else can I do with that? So basically, if you double-click your Q stack, you can import your song into this playback to be used on the timeline. In order to do this, you triple click on your Q stack, or you double click and you press view options. Then you go to the audio tab, and here there's going to be audio file. So if you double click here, it will take you to the correct folder, and the correct folder is going to be this. You have to go to the documents, MagicQ, show, and in the show there's going to be a folder called audio. Just drag and drop your files there, or copy and paste your files there. Okay, and after that, this is the link. So user, my name, documents, MagicQ, show, audio, and the files are here. So you can choose the file that you need from here. And a quick note, make sure your audio file's name is not going to be long. I believe it needs to be less than 30 symbols. So basically, if it's too long, the file is not going to be loaded. So keep it down below 30. After that, when you loaded the show file, you loaded your audio file, you should be good to go. After that, what you do is you can select your Q stack, you open the timeline, and it may need to be refreshed. Yes. And now you have it fully refreshed. So first of all, let me show you one thing. So if I click on any other playback, the timeline is going to be started reading from here. If you don't want, and you want to keep it always locked to this one, you press choose Q stack. So now this window is locked to that playback. So now you can actually select any other playbacks, and it will completely ignore it, which is great. So another thing that you need to learn is there's a view track sheet button. There's a view Q line that's going to show you the information that we used to have before in the old timeline button. But the other options here will be view Q stack. Again, it's like double clicking on your playback, but you can just click here and it will show you your view Q stack window. Another option here is the view Q. What it means is, if you have the audio file, this is the file that we uploaded, and it's got all the bands and frequencies here. You can actually change the look by pressing the view frequency bands, and it's going to change it to view peak and RMS. But what you can do as well is you can select any of our Qs inside of the Q stack. Let's say we have a Q number 3. So instead of going here and double clicking and opening view Q, you can actually select a Q inside of the timeline, inside of here, and press view Q. So it's going to take you directly into your Q, and you can see and bring the changes here. So Another thing you can do here, like what you actually see here. This is your timeline. This is your playhead. So when we launch it, the playhead is going to run. What you have here as well, it's the indication, the status bar that tells you playback not active. That means it's not going to run until I raise the fader. If I raise it, you can see it will change to the playback active, and the timeline playhead will run. Next one is our Q stack audio. So first of all, it will tell you the name of the track. So this is the file name, and it's your extension WAV, and this is your track. So you can clearly see the picks for your beats and all the other parts. So you will be able to actually move the cues around and match them to the correct place. So then let's look at the next part, main stack. So main stack is essentially the list of your Q stacks, cues in a Q stack. You can see they have seven cues here, and if I scroll now, you can see all 7 steps here. So what you can do with them is you can select your cue and you can move it around, and it will update the timing here as well. So I've got the layout too. So you can see when I move and I stop, it automatically updates the time. You can move stuff around, and then as soon as you close that window, see, it automatically changed. Now if you go back to that timeline window, the cues moved around. So you see, this is now first step becomes number 2, and the third step becomes number 1. Okay, this is how you move around. So again, just to make it as a confirmation for the MagicQ, because you shouldn't forget that the timecode is a linear thing, so it always progresses from left to right. If you swap them around, if you shift this one before that cue, you have to refresh it so it will clear it for you. Again, in order to do this, if you move stuff around, see, it actually quickly refreshed it for you. But otherwise, if it doesn't do it, close the timeline editor button and it will do the trick for you. In the past, you would have to run it through the reorder the Q stack. Now it's done for you automatically. Another good thing. So another thing you can do here is, so when you move the cue around, any cue, because it's a time-coded show, has got a fade time. You can see here it's a 0.7 seconds fade time. So what you can do, instead of typing in fade time here, you can actually change the fade time of the selected cue. So you can actually move that, and it will automatically update it in a Q stack. It's really good option as well. And another thing you can do is change the delay. So at the moment it's 0.6, but you can see it automatically changes all the data in your Q stack and visually for you as well. Okay, so you can move one cue at a time, but what about multiple cues? Of course you can do it as well. So if you select it using on each platform has got different buttons, but we try to keep it the same. But on the Mac you have to use the command button or Apple button. So you select first with the command buttons, you can select 3 cues together and then click and drag, and you can drag them together. Okay, so if you're running it on a Windows or if you're running it on the console, you should use the control button. I believe it's a control button, that button, and you should be able to select multiple of them, move them together. If you don't want to drag them, you can actually select the cues together and use the timecode button or the encoder Y, and you can actually move them around as well. Right. What other options you have here? If I close the window, if I press layout 3, so I have the full window. The other option on the screen, you have a zoom button. So the zoom button basically allows you to zoom in into your cue stack, so it makes the cues a bit bigger and you can see all the peaks much better. So then you can actually move it around. And the good thing is, when you select something, it gives you a line up and down. It's basically an indicator of where you are on the track, so you can actually position it correctly, link to this peak and leave it. Why you need to go down as well? Because that the timeline also supports your MagicQ tracks, so MQ tracks. The MQ tracks are basically your actions, the one you used when you were recording the timecoded show, when you were doing clicks as a flashes, or you raise the faders, press go. All your actions were recorded into the MQ tracks, and MQ tracks are available for you to play with as well. So when you created all this, you actually can expand your MQ track. So this is my track number 1, and it shows me which playbacks were in use. So playback page 1, playback 2, page 1, playback 3, etc. And what you can do is, let's say in the page 1, playback 4, I have a flash button that I've used when I actually got to the to that point on the song. So what I can do is, apart from, of course, moving it around to make it exact value that I need, I can also change the duration. So right now you can see duration is 0.5 seconds or 0.55 seconds or half of a second, but then you can actually move it back, and then you unclick it and you will see it changes, and it becomes actually the new value of 0.25 second. You can also change the so this is the duration, because it's a flash, so it goes full on. But so I click and I move around. But if you get to the point of the level, so on the level you can see now that it shows me the level is, it's like I raised the fader to 60%. Again, you don't want to go and re-record stuff. What you can do is you can move it to the right place, and you can actually change the level. So you can decrease it to, let's say, you decrease 46%, and you can change duration to be shorter. There you go. So you can see dynamically changes to the new values that you applied. Another good thing is you can actually lock stuff. So what it means is, right now, as you can see here, if I click on my first cue and I start moving around, you can see I start moving it. But it can be quite dangerous thing. So what you can do is you can actually lock it. So now whatever you do, you will not be able to move it anywhere. So what you can do is, when you select what you can do is you can actually lock the MQ track as well, so it will not be changed. So you can do it with either of them. So you can actually lock one of them, and you can lock another one. So it doesn't really matter, because you can do as you wish. So another thing that we also added, a really useful tool, and I'm really happy to see it here, it's the mute button. So these buttons, cross buttons, they are mute. And you may ask the question, why do I need a mute? Because the simple reason is, if you have divided your time-coded cue or playback onto multiple parts, and let's say I created like blinds, so I've used the blinders and I was actually bashing the button, and I've done the blinders using, I actually pre-programmed it correctly, I aligned them all correct, and I'm happy about it. I don't want to see it in my room blinding me again and again all the time while I'm rehearsing some part of the song. So instead of that, I can actually mute it. So now when I launch my timecode, it will be ignoring completely the MQ track, the called blinds. So I call it MQ track, and some of you may say, yeah, but how did I rename that blinds? Because if you click here, set, and you click on the blinds, you cannot actually rename it. But I have to tell you that all your MQ tracks or any actions that you're recording, those actions were recorded as actually macros. So if you open the macro window, you will be able to see that you have the macro 40 and 41 were created as a track 1 and track 2 for my Q stack. Like the same, I have Q stack 31 track 2, Q stack 31 track 1. That means I have 2 tracks for another Q stack with a timeline. So you can actually rename them here. So I can call this one as blinders. So yeah, I've renamed it. Now if I go back to the layout, you will be able to see they changed to blinders. So this is how easy it is to work with this. So another option here would be a horizontal scroll. Of course, you can use the mouse, but if you're using a console and you have a nice encoder, why not to use that? So you can scroll through your timecode, timeline, and if you want to go back to where your playhead is, you can always press the bottom of the button and it jumps there. So, and only thing you will need to do now is, if you launch it, you can actually stop it. So you can see left channel, right channel sound is playing. So what is it? So one thing I actually didn't show you, but it was a bit on purpose, is the Q audio option here as well. So what does it do? The Q audio basically allows you to preview what you have loaded into the queue in this particular queue stack. So queue number 4, this one, fourth queue, you can actually, if you press enter, it will be removed. You can actually double click and you can assign any other playback. So that could be your sound effect, that could be something as a part of your play that can come out actually off the console if you have a sound output. So when you add it, it's been added here and it's a part of the queue number 4. So that means if you move the queue number 4, the audio file will move with it together. So now, because they're linked to each other, so that means you can actually move stuff around and your audio file will be linked to your queue. The only thing you need to be aware of, the Q stack audio, or the file that we've loaded through the Q stack, the audio file, I'm talking about this file, yeah, the main file, the Q stack audio, is different from the Q audio, because the Q stack audio is basically the audio file as a part of the timeline that you can stop and continue, and it will stop. So if I launch it, I can actually stop it. So now it has stopped, and it will stop, and there is no output coming out of my MagicQ system. But on the contrary to that, the audio queue or Q audio as part of the queue, as soon as it triggered, it will play till the end, because imagine it's the part of the queue. So it's not controllable by the timecode stop and pause. It is part of the queue. It's like you launch the queue goes. So therefore it will play. So make sure you're aware of this, because I didn't want people to launch it and then thinking, why can't you stop it? Basically this, as it launched, it will play until you put the fader down. Your timecode, however, will stop, and so will all the steps. As you can see, all my actions stopped. Yes, they're all on. Why? Because they have been activated, but they haven't been put down. So that means the action have not finished. So if you want to kill it, you'll have to either kill them one by one, or raise the fader, put them down, or hold shift and then press release and you'll release it. So that's how you activate it. You can also restart and then you start it again. But of course, the sound will stop. You'll have to kill it if you want to see all your playbacks happening again. At the moment, as you can see, playback is not active because the fader, the Q stack has not been activated yet. What it means is when you put it down and you activate it, the playback starts playing. And another cool thing you can do, you can actually scroll through steps and scroll back. So you don't actually need to play the whole part. You can actually pre-roll and you actually move it through some of the steps and see how it's going to be played. So the difference between why it's doing it now and not when you have released the playback. So right now the playback is not active and the playhead is not active as well. It's not activated yet. So what you can do is, if you put the fader down and activate it, then it will start running. You can press pause. restart, kill the playback, release, and start it again. This works with internal and external timecode, and this is how it works with external. So if you double click your cue stack, it says internal timecode. If you want to program it correctly to the future external timecode, you can change it to the external timecode. You can switch on simulation, and it shows you straight away simulation is on. Now when you launch it, see, it says external timecode paused, it's waiting. So what we have to do is we have to press start. It says starts external timecode. So you don't need to mock around with external timecode simulation buttons here. Everything's controlled through here. So you press start. You can restart, stop it, kill it, again, you can launch it, start it, stop it, and again, you can actually scroll through and you can see how interactively it's scrolling. So, I know this tutorial has been quite long and I hope you liked it, and we hope to see more people using this awesome feature. And this feature is obviously supported on all PC versions. It's supported on the MQ500, on the MQ80, 70, the latest 70, and I believe in newest MQ50. Unfortunately, the old consoles, older consoles like 40s and 60s, will not support it because of the different UI. And I believe, I'm not sure about the older consoles like MQ100s, but this requires a high res. I think it requires a bit higher res screen than the old consoles support. So that's all for today. I hope you liked it, and if you have any further questions, feel free to ask in comments. Thank you very much and have a lovely day. Bye bye.